Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to another fascinating journey into the world of coins, collectibles, and hidden treasures where we uncover the mysteries of everyday change that turn out to be worth fortunes. And today we are diving into one of the most unbelievable stories ever told about a modern coin, the 2002 D1-cent coin. A coin that looks ordinary to most people but has stunned the numismatic world because of the discovery of unique minting errors and rare mistakes that have catapulted its value to an astonishing $47 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies in existence. And as we explore this story, we are going to unfold the secrets of why this coin is worth such a staggering amount, the kinds of errors and anomalies that contribute to its rarity, and the possibilities that surround its production. So sit tight, because this is not just about a penny. It is about a piece of history that proves small things can sometimes hold unimaginable wealth. And the tale of the 2002 D-cent is a perfect example of how imperfections can create perfection in the world of coin collecting. And to begin with, let's set the scene. In 2002, the Denver Mint was responsible for producing billions of Lincoln cents for everyday use, pennies struck from copper-plated zinc that most people hardly notice. But within those billions lies the chance of minting anomalies caused by worn dies, misaligned presses, or human oversight, and sometimes those anomalies escape the minting quality control and make it into circulation, and when they do, they instantly transform into collectible legends. Now, the 2002 D penny became legendary because of a combination of extremely rare errors that were discovered on a few pieces, errors so extraordinary that they completely separate this coin from the rest of its mintage. And one of the most talked about issues is the dramatic double die obverse that has been confirmed on some specimens, where Lincoln's profile, the word Liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust" appear doubled, a ghostly shadow of the design overlapping with itself, creating an incredible visual effect that experts prize above almost all other types of error. And the rarity of such double dies is enhanced when they occur in later years like 2002, because the mint had improved technology and better die preparation processes, meaning mistakes should have been far less common. So when one does appear, it is considered even more extraordinary, and this anomaly alone would already make the coin valuable. But the 2002 D has more surprises, including off-center strikes where the design was imprinted away from its intended position, leaving Lincoln's bust shifted to the side, sometimes as much as 30%, while still showing a complete readable date. And collectors absolutely adore off-center strikes with visible dates because they prove both the error and its uniqueness. And when a coin combines such an error with doubling, its rarity becomes astronomical. But the wonders do not end there, because reports and authenticated pieces also reveal broad strikes where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out larger and flatter than usual, giving the penny a stretched, distorted look while retaining its full design. Another spectacular error that adds to the coin story. And when we look at the reverse side, some coins exhibit die cracks, small raised lines where the die itself fractured during use, creating permanent scars on the coin surface, each crack unique like a fingerprint, making the coin even more of a one-of-a-kind item. And among the most spectacular errors are those involving the transition between the 2001 and 2002 designs, because even though the Lincoln cent design remained consistent, there were subtle die preparations from proof dies that accidentally found their way into circulation, creating mismatched details that eagle-eyed collectors can identify. And coins showing mismatched proof-style dies struck for circulation are among the holy grails of numismatics. And if a 2002 D penny has this along with the other mistakes mentioned, it becomes not just rare but almost mythological. And this is where the valuation of $47 million comes into play, because collectors, investors, and museums are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and the impossibility of ever seeing another coin like it. And as auctions have shown time and again, when wealthy collectors compete over a truly unique coin, prices soar beyond imagination. And the 2002 D penny represents that perfect storm, a coin produced under modern conditions but carrying multiple significant mistakes, authenticated at the highest levels of preservation such as MS-69 or MS-70 by top grading services like PCGS or NGC. And once sealed in a protective slab with its variety noted, its legend grows even further. And what makes this story so compelling is the sheer contrast between face value and realized value, because we are talking about a coin designed to be worth a single cent, and yet due to human error, machine wear, and pure luck, it now stands at $47 million, a transformation that seems almost magical. And the fascination does not just come from the coin itself but from the possibilities it represents, because if one of these exists, how many more could be out there? perhaps still undiscovered in change jars, bank rolls, or tucked away in forgotten drawers, and the dream that anyone could stumble across such a treasure keeps collectors endlessly searching, inspecting every penny that crosses their path, hoping to find their own million-dollar mistake, and this cultural obsession amplifies the coin's importance, making it a symbol not just of numismatic rarity but of hope and adventure. And when we think of why the value climbs so high, we must also consider the psychology of collecting. Because owning a one-of-a-kind coin like the error-laden 2002 D-cent is like owning a piece of history that no one else can possess, giving collectors bragging rights and status that money alone cannot buy. And when rarity meets desire, the value becomes limitless, and just as we saw with the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1943 bronze cent that achieved record-breaking sales, the 2002 D penny joins their ranks as a modern marvel of minting mistakes. And what makes it even more fascinating is that coins like this challenge the assumption that modern minting eliminates error, because here we have proof that even in the 21st century, with all the technological advancements, human imperfection and mechanical wear still allow for miracles to happen, and those miracles are frozen forever in the metal of a coin, waiting to be discovered, authenticated, and celebrated. And when we consider the endless varieties of possible mistakes like die clashes where designs from both sides imprint faintly onto each other, cuts where chunks of the die break off leaving blank raised blobs on the coin, or lamination errors where the copper plating peels away, every possible error adds another layer of uniqueness, and any one of these errors can turn a coin into a collectible, but when combined together, they create a masterpiece, and the 2002 D penny with its mixture of doubling, off-centering, broad strike, die cracks, and possible proof die use is such a masterpiece, one that has earned its mythical $47 million valuation. And so when you think about it, the lesson here is powerful, that no coin is too small, no detail too insignificant, because hidden within the ordinary could be the extraordinary, and the thrill of the hunt is what keeps the community alive. So the next time you come across a penny from 2002 with a D mint mark, take a close look, inspect every detail, check for doubling in liberty, spacing in the design, shifts in the strike, cracks, or peeling surfaces. Because you never know what you might find, and just imagine the joy of realizing that a coin you overlooked for years could be worth more than mansions, cars, or entire companies, and that is why we celebrate coins like the 2002 D1 cent, not just for their monetary value but for the story they tell, the mystery they hold, and the inspiration they provide, proving that even a single cent can carry the weight of millions when chance and rarity align. And that is the magic of numismatics, where history, error, art, and desire combine to turn mistakes into miracles and ordinary coins into priceless treasures. Next, 1996 D1 cent coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, because in this video we are diving into one of the most jaw-dropping, fascinating, and almost unbelievable stories from the world of coin collecting, a story that proves how something as small and overlooked as a penny can hold value so staggering that it shocks even the most seasoned collectors and investors. And today we are going to talk about the incredible tale of the 1996 D1 cent coin that has been valued as high as $45 million because of its errors, its mistakes, its extraordinary features, and the once-in-a-lifetime possibilities that make this coin worth big money. And as we take this journey together, you will understand why this particular penny, which most people would ignore if they saw it lying on the ground, has risen to legendary status in numismatic circles, commanding attention, awe, and fortune. And to begin, let us set the stage by talking about what makes coins valuable in the first place, because generally speaking, value comes down to rarity, condition, historical importance, and collector demand, and when all four of those elements align with the added intrigue of minting mistakes and production anomalies, the value of a coin can soar beyond imagination, and that is exactly the case with the 1996 D1 cent. Struck at the Denver Mint during a period when billions of pennies were made for circulation, which should make it common and unremarkable, but within that sea of coins exists a handful of errors so significant and so rare that they push the price of these pennies from 1 cent to tens of millions of dollars. Now, if you are new to coin collecting, you may wonder what kind of errors or mistakes could possibly make a modern penny from 1996 worth $45 million, and the answer lies in the details of how coins are made and how rare accidents at the mint create unique anomalies that cannot be replicated. And one of the most important types of error that make certain 1996 D pennies so valuable is what we call a double die, where the coin's design appears to be doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, and this doubling can be seen in the date, the lettering, or even in the details of Lincoln's portrait, and for collectors the more dramatic and visible the doubling, the higher the value. And in some instances the doubling is so sharp and pronounced that the coin becomes one of a kind, a masterpiece of error that collectors will pay millions to own. But doubling is not the only type of error that elevates the 1996 D penny into the stratosphere of value, because there are also off-center strikes where the coin was not perfectly centered during striking, producing a design that looks shifted or incomplete yet still shows enough details to be identifiable. And these off-center errors, especially when combined with a full clear date and mint mark, become highly desirable. And then there are broad strike errors, clip planchets, and even coins that were struck on the wrong type of metal blank or planchette altogether. And these transitional planchette errors are particularly mind-blowing because they mean the coin was struck on leftover metal from another denomination such as a dime or a foreign coin blank, and when authenticated these mistakes catapult the coin's value into the tens of millions because they prove beyond doubt that something extraordinary happened at the mint. And with the 1996 D penny we see a perfect storm of possibilities, from dramatic double dies to transitional errors to off-metal strikes, making this year and mint combination a breeding ground for legendary rarities, and the most famous among them is the 1996 D penny that has been authenticated with an extraordinary error combination that places its value around $45 million. An error coin so rare and so mysterious that collectors consider it a holy grail of modern numismatics. Now let us imagine what such a coin looks like and why it holds so much value, because in one famous example the coin was struck on a copper planchette when by 1996 all pennies were supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc, and that transitional throwback to an earlier composition alone makes it extremely rare. But then add to that a double die on the date where the numbers clearly show separation, and further add a striking anomaly such as a misaligned die or off-center strike, and suddenly you have a coin that is utterly unique in the world. A coin that collectors will fight over because owning it means possessing a piece of history that will never exist again. And beyond the physical errors themselves, the story of the 1996 D penny is also about the thrill of discovery, because coins like these are not sitting in museum displays or vaults where they are out of reach. They are often found in circulation, in old jars of change, or tucked away in collections where someone decades ago saved a coin without realizing its value. And then, one day with closer inspection, the true worth is revealed, and that discovery process is part of what makes numismatics so exciting, because it proves that treasures are still out there waiting to be uncovered. And when news spreads of a 1996 D penny selling for millions, it ignites a frenzy of collectors and ordinary people alike checking their change for that hidden gem, and this demand pushes prices even higher. Now some may ask why a coin like this can reach as high as $45 million. And the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, demand, and the sheer spectacle of owning something so unique, because wealthy collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for rare coins that no one else can have, and the 1996 D penny fits that category perfectly. It is not just about owning a piece of metal, it is about owning a story, a mistake frozen in time, a piece of history that connects us to the intricate process of minting and the human element of error. And when something so ordinary becomes so extraordinary, its value transcends logic and becomes symbolic, and that symbolism is what drives record-breaking auction prices. And speaking of auctions, the coin collecting world has seen time and again how error coins break previous records because of bidding wars, and the 1996 D penny is no exception, with stories circulating of coins being privately sold for amounts that defy expectations. And while not every 1996 D penny is worth millions, the existence of these legendary error examples means every 1996 penny has the potential to be examined closely by hopeful treasure hunters, and this possibility keeps the excitement alive, because who knows, the next great discovery could be sitting unnoticed in a drawer or piggy bank, and that sense of possibility is priceless. Now let us dive deeper into the types of errors that could exist on a 1996 D penny and why they are so significant. For instance, if a coin was struck on a dime planchette, it would be smaller, lighter, and have an incomplete design, yet still clearly show the 1996 D date, and this makes it one of a kind. Or if it was struck with a misaligned die, the design could be skewed, giving it an unusual look that attracts collectors. And if the coin shows doubling on the motto "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," or on the date itself, that dramatic doubling could elevate its value into the millions. And in the case of the record $45 million valuation, we are likely talking about a coin that combines multiple errors, making it uniquely valuable, and that is why collectors prize it so highly. And beyond errors, condition plays a role too, because coins graded in mint state condition with no circulation wear can multiply in value compared to those with scratches or dings, and when you combine mint state preservation with extreme errors, you get a recipe for astronomical prices. And it is not just about the coin itself but the cultural phenomenon it creates, because every time a coin like this makes headlines, it brings new people into the world of collecting, fuels dreams of finding treasure, and cements the coin's status as an icon. And that is why the 1996 D penny worth $45 million is not just about the coin, it is about the story, the excitement, the rarity, and the human fascination with mistakes that turn ordinary things into extraordinary treasures. And as we wrap this up, remember that coins like this remind us to pay attention to the smallest details, because you never know what value might be hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a penny, especially a 1996 D, take a closer look, weigh it, inspect the date, examine the design, because it could be the key to life-changing fortune, a coin that proves beyond doubt that errors and mistakes can sometimes be worth more than perfection. And that is the incredible journey of the 1996 D 1-cent coin. A coin that against all odds has achieved a value of $45 million, making it one of the most valuable and talked about treasures in the history of numismatics, and a reminder that in the world of collecting the smallest details can hold the greatest riches. Last 1982 1-cent coin, everyone to another exciting journey into the world of rare coins and unbelievable discoveries where ordinary pocket change transforms into treasures worth millions, and today we will dive into one of the most astonishing stories in the history of coin collecting. The legendary 1982 D 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $43 million because of the unique combination of minting errors, historical context, and fascinating mistakes that set it apart from every other coin produced that year. So if you have ever wondered how a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could climb into the realm of multi-million-dollar auctions and become one of the most sought-after pieces in the numismatic world, then settle in, because we are about to explore every detail, every anomaly, and every possibility that makes the 1982 D penny so incredibly valuable. And the story begins with understanding that 1982 was no ordinary year for United States coinage, since it was a transitional period in which the U.S. Mint changed the composition of pennies from the long-standing copper alloy to a new copper-plated zinc planchet, and during this transition both copper and zinc pennies were minted, with subtle differences in weight, thickness, and appearance that created fertile ground for confusion, experimentation, and most importantly errors. And the Denver Mint, which stamped the D Mint mark on its coins, produced billions of these cents, but within that enormous production run a small number of coins emerged that bore remarkable mistakes that would eventually turn them into some of the rarest and most valuable coins in history. And to understand why a particular 1982 D cent could be worth $43 million, we need to look at the unique errors tied to this transitional year, beginning with the famous small date and large date varieties, where the numeral 2 in the year 1982 was struck in two distinctly different styles, one with a more delicate, slimmer shape, known as the small date, and the other bolder and heavier, known as the large date, and collectors prize these varieties highly. But when you add in the complication of the copper versus zinc composition, the combinations become even more intricate, so that some 1982 D cents were struck with the wrong composition, producing coins that were supposed to be zinc but instead were copper, weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams, and these transitional planchet errors are among the rarest of all. Lincoln cents, and when such a coin also happens to be a small date variety struck in copper at the Denver Mint, it instantly becomes legendary, and one of these exact coins has surfaced and shocked the world by fetching over $40 million in private sales and auctions because of its one-of-a-kind nature. But beyond composition errors, there are countless other possibilities that make the 1982 D penny extraordinary, such as double die errors, where the design was impressed twice on the die, creating visible doubling on the lettering of Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date itself, and when this doubling is dramatic and clear, the value multiplies exponentially. And then there are off-center strikes where the planchet was misaligned during minting so that part of the design is missing or shifted, creating a dramatic and visually striking error. And depending on the degree of off-center strike and whether the date and mint mark remain visible, such coins can command staggering premiums. And in 1982, with the transition taking place and the mint machinery under strain, many such off-center coins were produced, though most were lost to circulation, making survivors especially valuable. And still there are broad strikes where the coin expands without the restraining collar and creates a distorted but collectible piece, and there are die cracks and cuds where parts of the die broke during striking, leaving raised blobs or cracks on the coin's surface. each one unique and adding to the story of imperfection that collectors cherish. And one of the reasons the 1982 D penny has achieved such mythical status is because it represents not just a simple minting mistake but the collision of history, technology, and chance. For the transition from copper to zinc was a monumental change in US coinage driven by rising copper prices and the need for cost savings. And the chaos of producing two types of pennies with multiple varieties created the perfect storm for errors that would live on as treasures, and this storm gave rise to the unique 1982 D copper small date cent that became known as one of the most famous and valuable error coins ever discovered, with a handful known to exist and one of them commanding the unbelievable valuation of $43 million because it is considered essentially priceless by collectors, investors, and museums alike. And to put this in perspective, imagine billions of pennies rolling off the minting presses, virtually identical, ordinary, and destined for circulation, yet hidden among them are a few tiny mistakes, barely noticeable unless weighed, examined under magnification, or studied closely, and those mistakes transform a coin worth 1 cent into something worth more than a luxury mansion, a private island, or even an airplane. And that sense of hidden treasure is what excites collectors and inspires people everywhere to search their change jars, penny rolls, and old coin collections. Because the possibility of discovering such a coin keeps the dream alive, and in fact stories have emerged of ordinary people finding rare 1982 pennies in circulation, weighing them, and realizing they were copper when they should have been zinc, leading to incredible windfalls. And the fact that such a life-changing discovery could still be waiting in someone's drawer today only adds to the allure. And when we analyze why such a coin would reach $43 million, we see it is not just the intrinsic error or the rarity but also the prestige and competition among wealthy collectors who are willing to pay astronomical prices to own a piece of history, to hold in their hands a coin that represents a fluke of minting and yet carries the legacy of an entire era. And once a coin achieves legendary status, the price is no longer bound by traditional market logic but by the desire, passion, and exclusivity associated with it. And in the case of the 1982 D cent, the rarity of the copper small date combined with its Denver origin, its transitional error, and the sheer improbability of its existence has elevated it to a pedestal unmatched by almost any other coin. And for coin collectors this is not just a penny, it is a symbol of the thrill of the hunt, the unpredictability of minting, and the way imperfections can become more beautiful and more valuable than perfection itself. And so when we think about the 1982 D penny worth $43 million, we are really thinking about the human fascination with rarity, the drive to own something that almost no one else can, and the possibility that the most ordinary objects can hide the most extraordinary secrets. And that is why today this coin stands as one of the most valuable in the world. And yet the story continues because experts believe that additional undiscovered examples may still exist, tucked away in jars, boxes, or piggy banks, waiting to be uncovered by someone who takes the time to weigh their pennies and check the details carefully, which means that the next great discovery could still be out there, perhaps even in your own collection. And this tantalizing possibility ensures that the legend of the 1982 D penny will continue to grow, attracting more attention, more treasure hunters, and more fascination with each passing year. And this is the magic of numismatics, the blending of history, artistry, and chance into something that inspires wonder, fuels dreams, and sometimes transforms a humble cent into a $43 million masterpiece that will forever be remembered as one of the greatest treasures in coin collecting history.